Let's go.
Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And if you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about Joker 2's box office opening weekend numbers worldwide. The first Joker movie came out back in 2019 and went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office on a budget of roughly around $55 to $70 million. The movie was directed by Todd Phillips and it stars Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. Now, I highly recommend you guys go and watch the previous Joker video that I uploaded on the channel already. And in that video, I go over why I thought the 2019 Joker movie was actually pretty good. And I also give my thoughts and opinions on why the movie actually went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office back in 2019, as well as going over the other reasons why Joker 2 would not be doing as good as the first film did. Now, there is one point that I want to reiterate in this video that I talked about in the last video, which is the first Joker movie that came out back in 2019 only grossed $1 billion because it was titled Joker. Joker, as a character created from DC Comics, is one of the most, or if not the most popular villains ever created. Or you could arguably say one of the most popular characters ever made, actually. So Joker, coming up back in 2019, along with other comic book movies such as Spider-Man Far From Home and Avengers Endgame, you could just only imagine the actual drive that people had to go to the movie theaters and actually watch this movie. People also knew this was not connected to the DCEU that was Warner Brothers and DC's crappy shared cinematic universe they were still trying to push at that moment in time. And even back then, the 2019 film Joker, the actual word of mouth on that movie is very divisive, actually. Like I mentioned before in my previous Joker 2 video, I actually enjoyed the movie and I understand why people didn't come away with the same understanding of it that I did, but that's just movies in and of itself. It's going to be a subjective experience varying person to person. But anybody that even liked the first Joker movie, like I did, would even tell you this. The first movie could just be a standalone movie in and of itself. That's it. You need no more movies added to this Joker first film, right? But then the movie did so well at the box office, it won so many awards, and you can already tell just from how much this movie actually gave Warner Brothers, they were going to obviously greenlight a sequel and obviously get the guy that directed the first movie to come back. They didn't even actually have a massive budget for the first movie. Now keep in mind, $55 to like $70 million is a massive budget for any movie in general, but the actual budget of Joker 2 is way higher than the first movie. And it's just so crazy to me how they invested roughly about $55 to $70 million in the first movie, only to triple the budget for no real reason whatsoever. Because like with the first movie, why would Joker 2 need a tripled budget? Why can't you give the movie like a $90 million budget and get away with the exact same thing? And keep in mind, the movie-going landscape that we are in right now is very different compared to 2019. And actually, even that year is different from a year like 2012 or 2007. So the actual discussion around not just like superhero movies, but comic book movies is also vastly different now. You know, superhero movies or comic book movies such as Joker 2 is a movie where, like, if they do not have like the outstanding word of mouth like a lot of them used to have, people just aren't going to watch. And it's hard to get people to be invested and go to the movie theaters now in general more than it ever is. Unless it is a must-see movie at the movie theaters, families or other people that are obviously maybe that have a significant other are not going to go and actually pay that amount of money for that theater experience unless it is a must-see movie. Now, I want to actually talk about Joker 2's actual box office opening weekend, but I want to show you guys something that's key for this video, and that is to actually compare it to its predecessor, which is the 2019 film's box office opening weekend. This is actually just domestic, okay? So, I know a lot of people were talking about Joker 2's box office domestically being just as bad as Morbius and The Marvels and Madam Web. Now, that is actually true if you're looking at it from a domestic box office point of view. So what is domestic? It's just the United States. That's what it means. International is basically, you know, Europe and those other territories, right? And the other thing to factor in is the word of mouth on Joker 2 is very, very bad. So I don't know how this movie is going to perform in week 2. It did, in my opinion, pretty bad domestically opening weekend, but did better internationally. The Joker 2's box office depends on week 2. If this movie does not perform well in week 2, this movie is going to be a massive flop. Now, if you watch my previous video, you probably already know that Joker 2 was not going to be a billion-dollar box office smash hit like its previous movie. But who knows? As we get more and more weeks into this movie's box office life cycle, maybe that's going to be a change that we're going to have to see. And I'll be the first person to be like, okay, maybe I was wrong. But looking at it right now, I don't know, right? So keep in mind, Joker 2's box office is $200 million plus marketing. That means the movie to break even, for if you just run the numbers on like the most lowest end, it would need like $450 million to break even, because you would do 200 times 2, right? And then if you want to take in profit, you're going to be needing to hit like $800 million. So yeah, and you got to factor in, because most people don't actually understand this, theaters take cuts, the international box office takes cuts, distribution costs, marketing. The movie really realistically needs about $900 to $1 billion just to actually make it be a profitable venture for the studio. Now, let's look at the first movie. Okay, so the first movie, not this number right here, because this is the overall gross right here. Opening weekend, this movie was put in 4,374 theaters. The movie took in $96 million domestically. Opening, right? $96 million, okay? That's huge. Now, if you're looking at Joker 2, the movie's budget, like I mentioned before right there, $190 to $200 million. Now, its overall box office opening weekend numbers were $114 million. That is mostly carried by an international box office performance like the first movie. You look at it right here, the first Joker movie, overall domestically, hauled in $335 million domestically, but it was mostly carried by the international audience, right? So let's look at this movie's box office opening weekend compared to its predecessor. Box office opening weekend for Joker 2 is $37 million. And that goes to show you right there that nobody wanted a sequel to this movie. The trailers were really confusing. I mean, I initially didn't hate the idea of Lady Gaga being Harley Quinn. If you kind of look at her and look at her music career, she kind of probably would be a perfect version of that in some weird way. And keep in mind, I haven't seen Joker 2 yet, right? I'm going to watch Joker 2 Wednesday of this week, on the week I'm recording this video, right? And I'm going to do an episode of Full Day of Going to the Movie Theater on it. So I'll judge the movie entirety when I watch it. Because, you know, people are out there going to be like, well, my favorite content creator said this, or my friend said it was bad. And it's like, hey, if you want to take your favorite content creator or your friend's opinion as the movie's bad or good, that's up to you. But for me, I gotta watch it for myself. I don't call movies good or bad, or TV shows good or bad, or animes good or bad, or video games good or bad, or comic books good or bad, unless I've actually experienced them myself, right? Because that's just the person that I am. So just look at the steep drop in this movie's domestic box office. It went from 96 million years ago to 37 million opening domestically. Keep in mind, there's a reason why they probably should have only did one venture with this movie, because there is literally no one asking for a sequel before it ever came out, and even probably less demand since the word of mouth is so bad on this movie. I mean, word of mouth is terrible on this movie. And even if I go and I maybe like some parts of it that other people don't, it wouldn't matter. The overall general sentiment of this movie is bad to a lot of people. and the word of mouth has turned them off. Now look at what's right here. Same with the first movie. The international box office has carried it once again. $77 million internationally to bring it right now for a week one total of $114 million. Now, this movie is going to literally live or die by its week two box office performance, like I just mentioned a second ago there, because that'll either be the final nail in the coffin to show two things. One, did the word of mouth actually just kill the movie outright? Or despite the word of mouth, people are still going to go watch the movie. That's really all we're at right now. So would I call this a flop opening weekend if you're asking me personally, because you guys know I talk about these numbers all the time? If you're talking about strictly domestically, yes. Domestically, this is a flop. But international, if you just look at worldwide, I would say it did a whole lot better than I thought it was, right? You guys know me. I wouldn't be saying that unless I actually really believed it. And I want to make sure I re-preference that. Domestically, it's a flop. Internationally, for week one, it's at a $200 million budget, 114, so it's off a fair amount. But that's a nice chunk of change if you're trying to get close to that. Keep in mind, the movie hasn't even grossed back its production budget. Now, if the movie doesn't take in about another $200 million in week two, then it's a complete flop, actually. So right now, I'm not ready to declare it as a full flop, but domestically, yes, it is. So, Joker 2 box office numbers, total worldwide, domestic opening, and records. Joker 2 has been released worldwide, with its box office numbers garnering a lot of attention, comparisons to the first movie, and questions about the future of the DC franchise. So, that's another thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned in this video too, is James Gunn is taking over the DC franchise basically this year when he releases Creature Commandos as an animated series on the Warner Brothers streaming service Max. And then he is also putting out Superman in 2025, right? So James Gunn has been someone that has always kind of did a lot of PR damage and goodwill for these movies. What I mean by that is he's the guy that'll be like, oh no, I thought that movie that I had no involvement with was actually pretty good, because he's trying to actually put out positive word of mouth surrounding his brand. His brand right now is to make sure DC has positive word of mouth, and that's going to be a very, very hard task because DC has barely ever had good word of mouth as far as like live action movies, right? And this is the reason why DC live action movies fails, because the company that runs them, Warner Brothers, has no idea what they're doing with the characters. They hire insanely incompetent idiots to actually, handle the characters, and then you have situations like this. I'm so glad James Gunn is going to take over. I've made that a point in the various podcasts I've did, even recently in my MSK show, where I'm glad he's taking over to provide some structure to this universe, because the people that have ran DC forever are morons. They don't know what they're doing, actually. And it sucks that, James Gunn is going to try to basically, make the word of mouth and goodwill around DC better. And then you have Warner Brothers releasing these kind of movies that are obviously very divisive amongst the fans, and it's causing just so much bullshit and losing so much money. I mean, like I mentioned before, if this movie does not do well week two, it's over. It's completely done for this movie, and it's a huge flop, actually. When looking at the list of upcoming DC movies, Joker 2 was the last before James Gunn's DC Universe truly begins, with Superman in 2025. As such, a great deal of attention was placed on Joker 2, not only to gauge how DC's Elseworlds property will fare moving forward, but also due to the first movie's overwhelming success. And the first movie, I did enjoy it. I think a lot of people misinterpreted what Joaquin Phoenix was actually trying to do. I can't speak for Joker 2, but I can only speak for Joker 1 while I'm recording this video. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the performance. I love the way that he became the Joker, actually. Thought it was actually pretty awesome. But there was some gripes I had there, obviously, like I mentioned in my previous video. But overall, I did enjoy it, actually. By the time of Joker 2 ending, in my book, I'm fuck with you guys. By the time of Joker 2's ending, many were disappointed by the sequel. The attention it received pre-release proved not to extend into positive reviews, despite Joker 2's promising cast and craftsmanship. The story proved not to resonate with critics and audiences alike. This immediately led attention to turn to how the film would perform at the box office, especially given Joker 2's massive budget of $200 million. As it turns out, Joker 2's box office proved worthy of exploration, sporting negative comparisons to the first movie and difficult questions about Joker 3. There was never going to be a Joker 3. That's never happening, okay? That's never, ever happening. And if it ever does happen, it's not going to happen with Joaquin Phoenix, because he said in an interview earlier this week he's done with the DC universe. So he essentially came in, did 2 random movies, and left, you know? But keep in mind, Joaquin Phoenix didn't originally even want to do a sequel, right? Unless Warner Brothers literally just dropped a truckload of money, that's the reason why he changed his mind on coming back for a Joker 2. I don't know why a Joker 3 would even be on the table if this movie fails at the box office worldwide. As alluded to, Joker 2 underperformed at the box office. At the time of writing, the film has not yet earned back its production budget. As a general rule of thumb, Hollywood movies are said to have to earn 2.5 times their production budget back to begin turning a profit, a reality which does not look feasible for Joker 2, unless it proves to have longevity at the box office. So, if this is the updated number, then apparently it went to 121 million worldwide, but like I said, for some of these like shill media websites like this one, they kind of over-exaggerate the numbers. Box Office Mojo has it as 114, they have it as 121. But either way, no matter how much you slice it, this movie has not even brought back its production budget yet, but it has garnered a lot more internationally to help with that than I thought. While these numbers do not look overly damning, the nature of Hollywood box office of late indicates that Joker 2 is shaping up to be a box office flop. For one, franchise movies are only growing larger in terms of budget, with Joker 2's 200 million reflecting this. Secondly, movies increasingly rely on opening weekend numbers to be deemed a success, with Joker 2 failing to turn a profit upon release. Finally, movies are facing progressively shorter windows in cinema, with the gap between worldwide releases and home video growing ever shorter. Yes, that is true. A movie like of this caliber, a big blockbuster tentpole, basically has to perform within about 3 to 4 weeks, give or take. And if it does not perform in that time frame, they just chuck it off the movie theater chain and they put it on their streaming service, and they'll previously announce a release date for a home video and digital release date as well. Yeah, movies now have a shorter period to actually perform because of the just nature of, like, if the movie does not perform well in week 1 and with word of mouth, it's looking like week 2 is going to be even worse. With opening weekend numbers being more important than ever to a big budget movie's box office, it is worth exploring how Joker 2 fared in its first week of release. The film was released worldwide on October 4th, 2024, yet failed to bring in the same success as its predecessor. In North America and Canada, the film was initially projected to earn at least 100 million in its opening weekend. However, as Joker 2's release date grew closer, projections dropped to 50 to 70 million as questions over who the film was for were raised. That is, Joker 2, what are you doing at the box office, man? Joker 2 somehow grossed lower these poor projections. As of its first weekend, Joker 2 had earned a domestic total of 40 million, vastly underperforming its original expectations. Overseas, Joker 2's performed better, but not by a drastically increased margin. Joker 2's international opening weekend box office total came in at 81.1 million, taking the film's worldwide opening box office to 121.1 million, significantly below the film's production budget. Naturally, the box office returns of Joker 2 are going to be compared to the first film. After all, 2019's Joker was a certified box office hit, becoming the first R-rated movie in history to gross over $1 billion. At the end of its theatrical run, Joker had grossed a domestic total of 335 million when combined with an international haul of 743 million. Joker's worldwide box office gross set at $1 billion. When taking into account that Joker only cost $55 million to produce, its success was evident. Marvel Studios' Deadpool & Wolverine became the second R-rated movie in history to earn $1 billion at the worldwide box office, taking the crown from 2019's Joker with a $1.3 billion worldwide haul. Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine ended up now outgrossing the original 2019 Joker movie to be the highest grossing R-rated movie. Unfortunately, for the DC film, it is not only Joker 2's total box office that compares unfavorably to its predecessor, but its opening weekend too. Joker 2's $121 million worldwide opening box office is dwarfed by that of the first movie, which earned a worldwide opening weekend total of $247 million. That is insane. $96 million of this total came in domestic territories, with the other $150 million being earned worldwide. That's crazy that we were in a time period where a movie just titled Joker, which is also based off a really popular character, took in $247 million opening weekend. So if you use just that as a international box office opening weekend number for the 2019 Joker movie, then this movie compared to that one is a flop by those numbers. But just want to make sure I reiterate, I was not going over that. I was going over the domestic opening weekend numbers, because I didn't have the domestic. I didn't have the international number for 2019's Joker movie week 1. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because I was only comparing the domestic numbers actually. As evident, Joker 2 failed to earn even half of Joker's opening weekend numbers upon its own debut. Of course, this will be a disappointment to Warner Brothers, with the studio committing to a much bigger budget for the sequel. While it remains to be seen whether Joker 2 will have legs at the box office and overcome a poor opening weekend, it is difficult to see it matching up to its predecessor's record-breaking total. Also, when the movie was first announced and they said they were basically they were going to be doing the movie in a more of a musical manner, the musical note added to the movie, because we know that it's a musical to some degree, that turned people off. Lady Gaga being cast as Harley Quinn turned a lot of people off. I didn't mind it as much, obviously, but that turned people off. It's like they were just making all the wrong decisions in terms of like what they were announcing for the movie before it even came out. People were mostly turned off on the fact that they didn't want a sequel to the first one. A musical is not something that they're interested in, and they're not interested in more of this universe in general. Above all else, Joker 2's box office numbers means the franchise is all but over. It is worth noting that the story of Joker 2 does not leave much room for a sequel. Despite Joker 2's unanswered questions, the film ends with the death of Arthur Fleck, hinting that his time as the titular clown prince of crime is over. That said, even if the creators of Joker 2 wanted to create another story in this world, the film's lackluster performance at the box office may put a swift end to these desires. Any spin-offs teased by Joker 2's ending are likely dead on arrival. In a business that is ever reliant on profits, it is hard to imagine Warner Brothers offering up the money to produce Joker 3's story, given Joker 2's inability to recapture the first film's success. Beyond that, any spin-offs teased by Joker 2's ending are likely dead on arrival also. Not only has writer-director Todd Phillips insisted he is done with the franchise via Variety, but the poor box office numbers of Joker Folie à Deux means that the possibility of other directors coming on board is just as unlikely. Also, he doesn't care anyway. He got all the money up front. What does it matter to him? I mean, the studios are stupid in general, and he obviously got paid up front to potentially deliver whatever this movie is, because I haven't seen it yet, and he doesn't care how it does well at the box office. I'd imagine he doesn't really favor people that like these movies, actually, so he doesn't give a fuck at all. After the ending of Joker 2, the most likely spin-offs could be centered around Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, or the many of other Batman's elements teased in the film and its predecessor. For example, 2019's Joker teased a young Bruce Wayne being affected by Arthur Fleck's actions, while Joker 2 directly foreshadows Harvey Dent's Two-Face. Yeah, that was the big problem with the first one I have is why are we setting up Bruce Wayne in a Joker solo movie? You know? Like, it just is out of place and made no sense, actually. Despite the possibilities for several continuations of the franchise, Joker Folie à Deux box office likely means that, as Arthur came to realize in the movie, Joker is no more. So, like I said before, I'm gonna go watch this movie Wednesday, actually. So you guys will see this video, obviously, Tuesday and Wednesday before I watch the video. Sorry, before I watch Joker 2, obviously. And I'll be doing an episode of Full Day of going to the movie theater on it. You know, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, yeah, I've been spoiled on some stuff, but that doesn't really honestly affect me. I have to see the entire movie in context in and of itself. I know the overall word of mouth is not good, but you guys know this. I have to go see something for myself, you know, and I'm just like that kind of person. But let this be a lesson to Warner Brothers. Make superhero movie sequels that people actually want to go see. You just can ask anyone that watched that first movie. They did not want a sequel to it. But the only reason why they did it was because it made $1 billion. That's the only reason why we ended up getting sequels to movies such as Aquaman and Captain Marvel, was because they made $1 billion at the box office. Had these movies had not made $1 billion, we wouldn't be seeing sequels for them, right? And this one is even more prevalent of the first movie, like I mentioned before, several times in this video, is the first one already was divisive in and of itself. Despite, you know, I liked it a lot, people really weren't checking for this as a sequel, you know? People already have a problem with unneeded sequels coming out now, and people really don't go to the movie theaters as often anymore because the theater experience is just expensive and a lot of money. So if it's not a must-see movie, like I mentioned earlier, you're just not going to be that interested in it. Keep in mind, opening weekend for the first movie was $247 million opening weekend worldwide, not domestically, opening weekend, right? And this movie only took in about 114, 121. That's not good. Now, the reason why that bodes better for the first one was because that first one had a budget of like $55 to $70 million, right? This one has a $200 million budget. So if you're looking at it from just that point of view, this movie's a complete flop. But I will reserve judgment on the complete flop until I see the week 2 numbers. When I see the week 2 numbers, then we can determine if it's a complete flop, because domestically it is a flop, but internationally the movie's box office is still what carries it right now currently. So I'll ask you guys, have you guys seen Joker 2 yet at the box office? Sorry. Yeah, because that movie's obviously clearly failing. Sorry about that. But have you guys seen Joker 2 yet at the theaters? I'm watching this movie this week, so you guys can expect that episode of Full Day of going to the movie theater, because the last one that I did in that series for an episode was I watched Alien Romulus. So hopefully when I watch this movie, I'll be able to actually do an open spoiler discussion for Joker 2. So yeah, just want to say I'm going to be working on releasing more consistent content for you guys as well. I should have a channel update video coming out very soon as well to kind of detail and give you guys the updates on the channel moving forward going into 2025. But outside of that video to look forward to, you can look forward to me also releasing more videos. I know I've been kind of working on that a lot this year, but I really want to drive that point home forward, is to release consistent content for you guys right when news drops. I want to be the first guy basically to kind of like get home after work, get the video done, and release it to you guys. I have a lot of videos to do for you guys in terms of like news that have come out, even just more recent news. So I'm going to work on using those videos as more practice to kind of get myself reinvigorated to do that like I used to on my main original channel. Because when like back on my main original channel, I used to just do the news videos instantly, and I really like that, and I want to start doing that on this channel as well. So thank you guys for checking out this video. If you're a returning viewer or new viewer, then subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Then leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, and I'm signing out, guys. See you guys later. Deuces. Peace.